If you want to change your life, change your habits. I'm Shireen Skeepers, founder of For Your Life and host of this podcast dedicated to exploring and understanding the power of habit. Join me as I speak with experts and everyday people who have transformed their lives through the power of habit. Because this is for your life. This is about habits and it's about time. Your time starts now.
I didn't know how much the 10 metre could hurt if it went wrong, and I just was so eager to be able to get all my skills that I just pushed myself, and I wasn't worried about it going wrong because water's soft until it went wrong and I realised water is not soft. But people also don't realise we hit the water at 60 k's per hour, so a lot of damage can happen. I've broken some ribs landing flat on my back.
Laura Hingston is an Australian diver who had dreams of one day going to the Olympics. She devoted her early years to achieving excellence at the highest level, but tragically, it seemed her dream was ripped away. What would you do? In this episode, I speak to Laura about her comeback, her resilience overcoming obstacles, and of course, the power of habit. So Laura, you're 16, you're lying flat on your back in a hospital bed, you open your eyes, and someone's just told you you can't move for the next 6 weeks and it's likely that your gymnastic career is over. How are you feeling?
Shattered. Yeah, I felt like my Olympic dreams at that moment were shattered right in front of my eyes. So as you can imagine, that was pretty devastating and, yeah, really tough as a 16-year-old. But I still had 6 weeks ahead of me. I spent the 6 weeks at home. And as you can imagine, I went from 32 hours a week of training to 0. So as you can imagine, I had so much energy. And then all of a sudden, I was stuck in bed. So it was quite lonely. It was quite boring. And I ended up having to do school from my bed, laying down. But yeah, it was really tough.
So what did you do next? So you've been told no more gymnastics. You still have this dream of one day going to the Olympics. What was next for you at that stage and how did you move through that?
Yeah, so during the 6 weeks, I actually just grew more and more motivated to get back to gymnastics. It wasn't till I had got through most of my rehab and I had a meeting with my coaches. I had spent a lot of time out of the sport and they just thought it was going to be a really big feat to get me back. And unfortunately, in that moment, they suggested that I move on from gymnastics and I was heartbroken because I'd actually gotten all of my skills back on my grass outside in my backyard. I was super motivated to get back. The Olympic dream was burning more than ever. And so that was also really, really tough for me. My whole identity was being a gymnast. And all of a sudden, I wasn't. So at the time, I was lucky to talent transfer through the Victorian Institute of Sport. And they had a talent transfer program. And we looked at aerial skiing, diving, and pole vault because I still really wanted to make that dream a reality from the dream that I've had since I was 5 years old. So I really was keen to try aerial skiing. But unfortunately, they didn't have a coach for me. So they said, oh, can you come back next year? And I was just super impatient. I already felt old transitioning to a new sport. At this stage, I was 18. So a bit of time had passed. And I just wanted to get going. So I went over to the diving pool, absolutely loved it, and didn't even bother with the other two. So yeah, now I'm on the national team for diving and have never looked back.
And what was it like transitioning from gymnastics training now to diving? Were you able to take some of the same skills with you? And what were the training approaches like? How did they differ?
Yeah, I was. There was a lot of similarities with my aerial awareness, being able to flip and twist. I was able to bring that over to diving, which is why my transition to diving was so fast. Originally, I was terrified of heights though. So I thought I was going to be a 3-meter springboard diver, but my coach saw me do a handstand and he said, nope, get off that springboard, you're a 10-meter diver. And as you can imagine, I had to quickly get over that fear. And I'm glad I did because I absolutely love doing the 10-meter and the handstand dive is one that I'm known for. But my transition to diving was not easy. My first couple of months, I was black and blue. I couldn't land on my head, which was a fundamental skill for diving. And so there was lots of belly whackers, back whackers, and I had bruises all over. Every single time I would try and dive in from more than a 2.5 somersault, I would duck my head, which in gymnastics, obviously, if you land on your head, it's game over. So it was just an instinct that I'd had for many years being a gymnast, and I had to break it for diving. But it was a painful transition. My coach used to call me Bruiser in the beginning because I had so many bruises, but I was determined to push through to diving, and I was really, really motivated to qualify and, try and pursue the Olympic dream in diving.
Amazing. And of course, for hitting the water from that height at that speed, you can really do some damage if you don't know what you're doing, or you've entered the water in the wrong way with your feet or your arms in the wrong position. You can really hurt yourself. So it must have been terrifying, but also very important for you to have a coach that you trust. And tell me about that relationship or that rapport that you built up with your coaches, and what kinds of characteristics were there in that relationship that made them a good coach, or the two of you a good combination?
Yeah, that athlete-coach relationship is huge for me, and I think it's huge for everyone, but it really is big for me. And especially in the beginning when I was transitioning so quickly, I had to have full trust in my coach. And I think me being a little bit naive about the sport, I didn't know about diving, and I think that was great because I didn't know how much the 10-meter could hurt if it went wrong. And I just was so eager to be able to get all my skills that I just pushed myself, and I wasn't worried about it going wrong because water's soft until it went wrong and I realized water is not soft. But people also don't realize we hit the water at 60 k's per hour. So a lot of damage can happen. I've broken some ribs landing flat on my back. But I always trusted my coach, and I always knew that he wouldn't send me up there up to the 10 meter if I wasn't ready. And I had that mutual trust with him, and we were both just so determined to get me to the level that the other people my age were at, because I was up against athletes who had been competing on the world stage for 10 years and I never touched a diving board. So that transition had to be really fast.
That's incredible. What would you say has been your proudest moment, your proudest achievement as a diver?
Oh, this is a great question. And there's lots. I mean, obviously, winning a medal or, winning a competition, they're always a really nice feeling. It's a real highlight in sport. There's not that many highlights in sport. My dad likes to say that it's a lot of heartbreak. So for me, they're always really proud moments. But the proudest one that really stands out to me was 2019 World Championships. It was my first, what I like to call, big girl competition. I was in South Korea. And my parents flew over to watch me, and I'd made the semi-final. I looked up in this huge stadium and I could see my parents. My dad was close to tears. My mum was crying as well. And it just was such a proud moment for me to be able to share that with them.
What a great story, great achievement. We spoke about goal setting as well when we caught up recently, and I liked what you said, that it's great, it's important to have a goal, but it's not enough. Just having the goal is important and it's necessary, but it's not sufficient to get you there. So talk to me a little bit about that sort of process between having the goal and actually achieving it.
Yeah, I absolutely love goals. So for me, I've always been a goal setter ever since I was a young girl, and I really attribute a lot of my success to goal setting alone. The really important part is not only stating the goals that you want in a realistic way, making sure that you have a time to them, but also to fully commit to that goal and making sure that there's no part of me that doesn't want to achieve it. So it's about checking in with myself. Do I want this? Do I want this goal? And then fully committing to achieving it every day, breaking it down into smaller goals, and just working towards it every single day.
So it's a lot around staying motivated towards achieving that goal. So what are the things that you do to stay on track and stay motivated?
Yeah, motivation is a really big one. And I can tell you right now, getting up in the morning at 5 a.m. when it's freezing cold, sometimes I just want to roll back over, snooze that alarm and go back to sleep. So it's important for me that I have a visual representative of my goals, whether that's a vision board. I have my goals on my mirror in my wardrobe so that every morning the first thing I see when I wake up and get dressed are my goals. When I think about it, going to the Olympic Games, I get goosebumps. It's a really big goal of mine, and it almost seems overwhelming at times. So if I am able to break it down into smaller, achievable action steps each week, each day, that's easier for me to stay motivated and also keeps me accountable to taking those steps towards my goal, towards that bigger goal.
I'm a huge believer in visualization. We spoke about that earlier on as well. And you mentioned that you have a vision board, you have these goals, you break them down in smaller chunks, and the vision board is somewhere where you can see it every day. How does that play into your ability to visualize you achieving that goal?
Yeah, visualization is amazing. I learned this skill, unfortunately, throughout my career. I've had a lot of injuries, and sometimes they've come at the worst times. So there's often been times when I would turn up to a competition and I wouldn't be able to train until the competition day because of some injury. And that's when I really saw the power of visualization. And I would be sitting on the poolside and I'd be visualizing my dives as if I'm training. All my competitors are getting used to the pool, getting used to the surroundings. And I was sitting in the stands. I couldn't do anything. So I would often walk up to the 10 meter, visualize my dives so that by the time I got to the competition, competition day, I felt like I'd already trained. So that was really big. And I realized that some of my best results actually came from doing that. So now I just use it in all aspects of my life. Whether I'm doing a keynote presentation, I'll quickly spend 5 minutes in the car before I go upstairs to visualize how I want to be in that presentation. Or for a competition, I might visualize everything that can happen in a competition. If we have technical difficulties, how do I want to react? Or how do I want to perform at this next competition? Or if it's my goals, I might just sit there and just get inspired about my goals. Imagine that I've already achieved the goal. What does that look like in the process as well? So I visualize every aspect of my life, and yeah, that keeps me motivated, accountable, and waking up passionate every day.
So you mentioned that you do a lot of public speaking, and I know that you speak to schools and businesses and ranges of different audiences. What is the sort of common theme that you feel resonates with whoever you're speaking to? What is the thing that people are most interested to hear about?
Resilience. That's a big one. I think we all have trials and tribulations and, obstacles we have to get over, and we all have those really hard times. And what is the mindset that helps you get through those tough times, and how can you learn from them? So resilience and working through adversity are the two big themes.
Mindset's another one that is very, very powerful. Talk to me about that. How does one set one's mental position in the best way possible to achieve a goal?
This is definitely something that as I've gotten older, I've had to work on a little bit more. I think being an elite athlete my whole life, I've been held accountable to quite a high performing mindset. But as I've gotten older, I've realized there's a lot more things going on in my life. I'm working outside. I've got family. I have friends. I've got all these things that I'm trying to manage. And it's about, okay, whatever environment I'm in, what's the best mindset for that? So if I'm at diving, I really need to be focused. I need to be concentrating. I need to learn to compartmentalize my work so that I'm not focusing on that when I'm at training. And then also just focusing on executing my dive. We are a perfection sport, so I'm always trying to chase that 10 dives. So for me, it's about what do I focus on to get that best dive out of me and trying to hold that focus for 3 hours. But of course, I'm human. So some days, I feel great. Some days I don't. And it's almost the days that I don't feel good that's the most important, that I'm really working on that mindset. Because when everything's going well and when you're feeling good, that mindset's easy. But it's the days where you don't want to get up, or you're not feeling well, or you're so overwhelmed, you've got so much going on in life. They're the really important days that you sit down and make sure that you're really trying to focus on that mindset and getting the best out of the day and just taking a step towards that goal.
You've been on quite a journey. I mean, from a little girl starting off in ballet and then moving into gymnastics and then having that dream crushed and then moving into diving. You've had a lot of different people that have come in and out of your life, coaching, training, etc. Give me an example of the kind of approaches to coaching that have worked well or those that haven't worked well for you.
Yeah, I would say they're three pretty tough sports. They definitely have some similarities. And I would say for me, the best thing is that positive reinforcement. I know that when, I've had coaches that have yelled at me and have really shut me down, and that actually ultimately has, shattered my confidence in some way. So the best coaches for me are the ones that I have really good communication with, have that really great athlete-coach relationship with, and have that trust that we spoke about earlier. And we have that united goal as well. And we're both doing everything we can to get to that goal. And we both work as a team. And that's the really big thing. And as an older athlete, I think that's a little bit easier. When you're younger, there is that really big power imbalance. But now that I'm an older athlete, I can have that really great relationship with my coaches. And it's just about trying to find, what are their strengths? What are my strengths? And how can we put them together so that we can achieve the goals and get the best out of the process and each other?
Yeah, I think you mentioned that not only do you have to have a good coach, but you yourself need to be coachable. The
Definitely.
Two things have to happen together.
Yes.
So, Laura, what's next for you? So what other goals or ambitions do you have beyond? I mean, eventually there'll come a day where you'll have to transition out of the pool. What do you look forward to in those later years?
I'm actually looking forward to change and just the unknown. I mean, I don't have any major goals right now for post-diving. I know that I definitely want to work and I want to give back, and hopefully I can use all of the strengths that I've learned as an athlete in a really positive way. I mean, I do work for the Australian Sports Commission right now and I absolutely love it. And where that would take me post my sporting career, I'm not sure. So right now I'm just keeping my options open. I'm a big believer in saying yes to any opportunity that comes my way and hoping that I can continue my speaking on the side, because I really enjoy sharing my experiences. And honestly, I'm excited for that time in my life, but I don't know where I'm going to end up.
Great. Keep it open. Fantastic. So we've spoken about goal setting, we've spoken about having the right mindset, we've spoken about the importance of having the right coaches around you, visualization. What are some of the habits, little things that you do every day, maybe even not, but unconscious, that you're unconscious of, that you think have also contributed to your success?
Yeah, I would say a lot of my athlete habits are probably subconscious now because I've been an elite athlete for so many years. Some of the habits, obviously, that are super important are the visualization. I have to be disciplined with that because sometimes I come home and I'm tired and I don't want to do it, but I know how beneficial it is for me. And I know it's also good to just slow down. It's just a different form of meditation. I'm such a busy person naturally. So for me, that's also, 20 minutes that I can just relax and sit down and just be with myself. A lot of my other habits that I'm looking at improving are just outside of diving and just making sure that my mental well-being is great. Or, just having my morning coffee in the morning, no technology, just if it's a beautiful day like it is today, sit outside in the sun and just enjoy that 5 minutes of just peace. But also, with my habits, it's just what can I do today that's going to make me feel better? And again, I'm also human and I'm not perfect. So there's some habits that I'm trying to make better for my sleep routine. Obviously, try not to have my phone in the bedroom, but that's harder than I'd like to admit. But, it's not being too tough on myself, but also just making sure that I'm doing everything I can to make sure that mentally, physically, and emotionally, I'm feeling good.
Well, if it's habits that you're looking to change, or we certainly come to the right place, we can definitely help you with that. But I'm sure, though, that one of the big challenges is just managing, I guess, your stress or the performance anxiety. There are lots of expectations on you. You feel like you have a lot of eyes on you. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that is a big one. And I would have to say it's my support team around me. I like to call them my A-team. It's my family, my friends. We have a sports psychologist. I've got all of my team at VIS, my coaches, my teammates. And I just have a small circle around me that I know that will pick me up when things aren't going well, but they'll also celebrate the wins with me. And they're the ones that I really lean on during the tough times. And I'm a big believer that even though I'm in an individual sport, it takes so many people to get me to where I am. And that's really important that I'm giving back to my A-team, but I'm also leaning on them when I need them. And I honestly could not have done it without them.
Do you feel like you have balance in your life? Because this is always one of my concerns with elite athletes is it's very all or nothing. And do you have opportunity to just go out and let your hair down or you constantly, I've got to get up and train in the morning. I can't do this, I can't do that. Are you able to have some balance in your life?
Yes and no. I mean, given that we're so close to the Olympic trials, I'd say my balance is a little bit off right now, but I also know it's not forever and it's just for the next 4 weeks. Outside of that time, yes, I would say it's really important to me to have balance, which is why I have jobs outside of being an athlete. Yes, it makes my life really busy, but it also means that I can switch off from diving. It also means that I'm excelling outside the sport, which is really important to me and giving myself a different focus. And I'll catch up with my friends. Yeah, that's really big. I've got a little niece and nephew who I absolutely adore, and I at least see them once or twice a week, and they're just my whole world. So for me, I would say, yes, I do have balance, but this is something that I've learned as an older athlete. I mean, even before the last Olympic cycle, I was living interstate. My whole world was diving. When I got medically withdrawn, that was just devastating. That was almost more devastating than what happened to me with my back surgery. So after that moment, I realized, I sacrificed so much for that Olympic cycle and it didn't work. So now, I'm going to have balance. I'm going to live the life that I want to. I know sport's not forever, but I also know I'm going to be a better athlete if I'm more balanced and I'm happier outside the pool. I'm going to perform better inside the pool.
So on For Your Life podcast, we always want to leave our listeners with a couple of tips and some practical things that they can take away from this and put into practice in their life. So if you could sort of reduce it down to the top 3 things that you think that you've learned along the way that have been the most critical to your success, what would be those 3 things?
The first one would be to get a mentor. To find someone that has succeeded before you, has gone through what you've been through, whether for me that could be an athlete, it could be someone in business. And I look to people all the time I love talking to people who are successful. How did you get there? What does that take? How did you get through this? And visualization is huge. I wish as a younger athlete I learnt this sooner. Training smarter, not harder. If I'm visualizing, there's no impact on my body and the chances of injury are obviously significantly less. So I wish I learnt the art of visualization earlier and practiced it. It's a skill. You can't just do it one-off. It's something that you have to practice all the time for it to be effective. And the third one Well, I think I'm going to need 4.
Go ahead.
The third one is obviously goal setting. That's big. That's the one that keeps you on track. You know, if you don't have a goal, I like to think of the analogy of if you're driving, you could be driving the best car in the world, but if you don't have a destination, you're going to end up nowhere. Whereas if you have that destination, if you have that goal, you're going to edge closer every day. So that's kind of how I think about it, is to don't be afraid to dream big. Don't let anyone tell you that your dream's too big. Just go for it. So that one, and then also have your A-team around you, your support network, those people who pump you up, who help you achieve the goal, but who also come on that journey with you. There's nothing better than achieving those goals and you've got those people around you. Like my proudest moment with my parents in the stands. I mean, that was so special to me.
So Laura, there must be times where you do need to rest. It probably maybe doesn't come naturally to you, but how do you force yourself to have those breaks and that rest that your body is recovering in between?
Yeah, recovery is huge. And I would say a lot of my injuries in the past have been because I didn't prioritize my recovery. Now that I'm an older athlete and hindsight is amazing, I definitely realize how important the recovery is. It is hard for me, but I also force myself to recover. You know, I try and have a nap if I can fit it in throughout the day, but every Saturday I'll have a 3-hour nap no matter what. And that's just to help me catch up from the week, but also so that it sets me up for the following week as well. I will often just, if I'm catching up with friends, it'll be really casual. Instead of going out, you know, they'll come over to my house, I might go over to theirs, we might play some board games or watch a movie. And for me, that's just another way that I can combine two things. I can see my best friends, but I can also have a little bit of downtime and rest. And then also just sometimes just checking in with my body and just making sure that I am slowing down where I can. I love to read. I'm trying to get more into reading and making sure that's actually a new habit that I'm
well done.
Instilling at the moment, and is to get back into reading, because that forces you to be present, forces you to sit down and relax.
You talk about your A-team around you, and I love that analogy. Is there someone in that A-team that you feel is the person who will say, hey, you need to rest, I'm worried about you, you need to stop, as opposed to the person who's like, you need to train more, you need to train more?
Honestly, that's everyone in my A-team, if I'm honest. I mean, my coach, he's the one that's probably more likely to say, all right, let's do one more rep, but he also knows me so well. So he will often also tell me, like, that's enough for today. Even just the other day, I was coming back from an illness and I was 3/4 of the way through my program and he just told me to finish. And I went over and I was like, oh, is everything okay? And he said, yep, everything's fine, but I'm happy with everything you've done today. I can see that your energy levels are dropping. I want you to go home and rest. So, you know, whether it's my family who keep me accountable, my friends, everyone is always looking out for my best interests, and they can often spot the burnout before I can.
Well, it's been wonderful talking to you. I've really enjoyed listening about your journey, and I think you're very brave and very strong, and I really look forward to seeing how you go at Olympic trials. We'll all be rooting for you, and would love to have you back on For Your Life at another future date to talk about your latest experiences.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Laura's story is as much about physical habits as it is about mental habits. She talks about mindset, visualization, and resilience, all great habits to practice daily if you're focused on achieving your goal. Now the same habits that turned Laura into a brilliant gymnast, she's using for success in the diving pool. So if one pathway to your dream is cut off, find another way. All the best, Laura, and good luck with your Olympic dream. You've been listening to For Your Life podcast, produced by Sound Cartel. Subscribe free to For Your Life wherever you're listening now.